Hello, church. I trust that you've been having a good week and are looking forward to this Sunday, gathering together to worship in church. I don't believe it's any secret to those of you that are listening to this that I am not a very handy person. That is, I don't have a lot of talent and ability when it comes to working with tools or raw materials. I remember the very first time, or at least the first time I can remember, that I ever tried to make something. I had been in school, I believe it was around the third grade or somewhere around there, and we had studied in history class about some of the ancient wars, and we had read about catapults, and that just grabbed my attention and it fascinated my young mind. And I went home determined I was going to build my own catapult. I don't know what the purpose of it was. Maybe the neighbors next door were going to attack us. Maybe to prepare and make sure that the town people didn't get us country folk or whatever the case may be. I needed a catapult. And so I went looking as soon as I got off the bus, and I found a rock, and I used that for the fulcrum in the middle. And I found a piece of a 2x4, and I laid it across the rock, and all that left was I needed something to launch. And I looked around, and I found a smaller rock that was almost round, and it was good and heavy, and it was just the perfect size to be a great weapon to launch into the air. And so there I had compiled together my materials, and I had built my catapult, and the only thing that remained was to test it out. And so in all the intelligence that my young Fredericktown mind could muster, I put the rock on one end and jumped on the other to launch it into the air. And what I ended up doing was catapulting my teeth out of my mouth as the rock smacked me in the face. To this day I have one tooth that remains crooked in my mouth from what grew in behind it. And I haven't tried to build a whole lot of things since then. I have learned that I'm just not that handy. We are waiting, anticipating the birth of our daughter Itzy. We're looking forward to that just a few months from now. We had discussed and talked about in the beginning what we were going to do for a crib, and there had been the potential idea that I might build one for her, and that would be something that we could hand down to future generations. But then I remembered my catapult. We've decided we'll buy one instead of trusting my ability to build. Then there are other people in the world that are master craftsmen, that are just good at what they do. They can just touch things, and they have the imagination of an artist and the skilled hands of a master, and they're able to take the materials and make something that counts out of what seemingly is nothing. Now, we live in a world in which we have a hard time making sense of the things that are around about us a lot of times. There's anger, there are violence, there's poverty, there are wars, there are famines. There are just a lot of things that go on that don't make a lot of sense to our mind. Why is it that some people get sick and others don't? And why is it that some struggle for their daily bread when others have way too much? Just a lot of things that we struggle with. So I want to spend the next couple of weeks going over the order of the universe, because I believe that there is a guiding hand. I believe that there is someone that's in control. We're going to begin this week speaking about God is the Creator. In other words, we don't have a life that has just been left to chance. We have a master craftsman who has set a plan in motion, and if we'll surrender ourselves into His hand, can make great things out of our life. We're going to follow it up in the weeks that follow with sin is the destroyer, Jesus is the Redeemer, the Spirit is our guide. But this Sunday, we're going to be talking about God, who is our Creator. Be reading the book of Nehemiah, chapter 9, beginning in verse 6 to the end of the chapter. And if you want to be further prepared, you can read Genesis chapter 1. Be praying, be preparing. We'll be together at Sunday morning, 9 o'clock a.m. English service. Don't be late. God bless.